If I say the words Tank Buster, the plane that most immediately comes to mind for most people is the famous American A-10 Thunderbolt II, most commonly known by its nickname Warthog. This beast has been in continual service since 1977 and has proved its worth in combat on many occasions, most notably in the two Gulf Wars. It provides invaluable close air support for ground forces and is lethally effective against enemy armor and vehicles. But it was not the first dedicated tank buster. That honor belongs to a British aircraft from World War II, the Hawker Hurricane. First introduced into RAF service in 1937, it was the most numerous British day fighter during the 1940 Battle of Britain, though it was overshadowed in the public consciousness by the Supermarine Spitfire. By the time production ended in 1944, almost 14,500 Hurricanes had been built in many different marques, including the world's first tank-busting aircraft. It was in the western desert of North Africa that the idea was conceived of modifying the reliable Hurricane into the anti-tank role. Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps and Germany's Italian allies had managed to fight through to Egypt, with the aim of capturing and severing the Suez Canal, Britain's lifeline to her Far Eastern Empire. An all-out effort was made by Britain, with Allied troops from Australia, India, New Zealand, Poland and France to stop Rommel and defeat the Axis in the desert. The desert was the ideal arena for the tanks. Its flat, open expanses favoured speed, manoeuvrability and tank gunnery. But its lack of cover also favoured air operations. The Allies lacked aircraft with the right armament to take on tanks and other German armoured fighting vehicles. The Hurricane fighters in North Africa could strafe troops and shoot up soft-skinned trucks and field cars. Bombing was often wildly inaccurate and hit-and-miss affairs. What was needed was an aircraft fitted with anti-tank guns that could swoop in and strafe armour, the same way that ordinary fighters shot up supply columns with machine guns and cannons. Incredibly, the RAF command wasn't keen on such an aircraft or tactics. Many in the top brass consider that tanks should be defeated by other tanks, or ground-in-place anti-tank guns, artillery or infantry, not fighter planes. But wiser heads prevailed, and the Hurricane Mark II was chosen for conversion into the world's first dedicated tank buster, or as the British originally nicknamed them, the Flying Tin Openers. The modified Hurricanes were designated Mark II-D, and each aircraft was fitted with two 40mm Vickers S anti-tank cannons. They fired tungsten-tipped shells. The problem of fitting the bulky cannons to the Hurricanes was several. Firstly, the weight of the guns and their ammunition reduced the aircraft's speed. Each modified Mark II-D also carried two Vickers 303 machine guns loaded with tracers for aiming. The modern A-10 tank buster is very heavily armoured due to its slow speed, as it is vulnerable to ground fire. The Hurricane II-D faced the same problem. Its reduced speed made it more vulnerable to ground fire. And armour was added to protect the cockpit, engine and radiator. The ammunition carried was very limited. Each 40mm Vickers S-gun had only 15 rounds. The cannon shells were capable of penetrating the armour of German Panzer III and IVs in the desert, as well as all Italian types. First used at the Battle of El Alamein in 1942, 5 RAF squadrons flew the type.
Now they are within range, and you'll see for the first time this deadly gun in action, truly living up to its name, Tank Buster.
Though tank kills by aircraft should be taken with a pinch of salt, the RAF noted that Hurricane 2Ds destroyed 47 Axis tanks out of 148 actually hit, plus recording the destruction of almost 200 other Axis vehicles. But balanced against this were the losses to the flying tin openers due to ground fire or interception by German aircraft. The 2Ds reduced top speed and maneuverability due to the bulky guns and extra armour led to many Hurricane losses. Nonetheless, the flying tin openers paved the way for the Tank Buster concept, and a newer version, the Mark IV, was further improved with new ammunition, improved armour and protection for the fuel tanks. Using high explosive ammunition, the Hurricane Mark IV saw extensive use in the Burma campaign, interdicting Japanese vehicles and river traffic. In the European theatre, the mantle of Tank Buster moved from the old Hurricanes to a new generation of ground attack aircraft, primarily the Hawker Typhoon and Tempest, which pioneered the use of air-to-ground rockets and created havoc with German panzer forces during the Battle of Normandy in the summer of 1944. And though their claims of tanks destroyed were wildly inaccurate, the constant presence of these aircraft over the battlefield had a detrimental effect on German morale and the ability of German forces to launch counterattacks or even move around by day. The Hawker Hurricane 2D was the pioneering aircraft in developing the Tank Buster concept and can be considered the great-grandfather of the present-day A-10 Warthog. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon, details in the description box below.